The World Junior Championships are some of the most fun hockey games to watch every single year. There's always a ton of young talent, some promising young NHL prospects. So with the World Juniors coming up in a couple of weeks, I want to talk about 10 NHL prospects to watch out for in the 2020 World Juniors. And I'm talking about players that have already been drafted, not guys like Alexis Lafreniere, Byfield, or any of those players. Starting off the video with Russian forward Grigori Denisenko, and if you're a fan of the Florida Panthers, you should definitely be paying attention to some Russia games because he's going to be a super fun player to watch in this tournament. Denisenko was the 15th overall pick by the Florida Panthers in the 2018 NHL draft and was one of the Russians' better forwards at last year's World Juniors, where in 7 games he had 9 points. With Denisenko being one of the returning players for the Russians, he's now 1 year older and has a good amount of KHL games under his belt. I think he's going to be better than ever and should be the Russians' best forward in this tournament. And if you're a fan of the Florida Panthers, you should definitely be excited about this kid because it does look like if he can keep his head on straight, he's gonna have a promising future in pro hockey. And if you haven't yet seen him play many games, the World Juniors is gonna be the perfect time to start watching him play a little bit. Moving on now to a player that I'm personally very excited to watch as a Red Wings fan, we have Veleno for Team Canada, the Red Wings' 30th overall pick in the 2018 NHL draft. Now Veleno was a part of the World Junior team last year, but he wasn't really a big part, played in the bottom 6 for the most part and only registered 2 assists in 5 games. But so far this season, he has been getting used to playing against a lot better competition, playing in the American Hockey League for Grand Rapids. So Veleno should be pretty prepared coming into this tournament, and I'm fully expecting him to be one of the best forwards on Team Canada and a big part of the team. He's going to take on a pretty big leadership role in my opinion too. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a letter because again, he is a returning player, even though he didn't play as big of a part on the team last year as he's going to this year. So if any of you guys are a Red Wings fan like me, I'm sure most of you are American, or maybe some of you guys are European, but even with that being said, you should definitely tune into some Team Canada games to see how Veleno plays because I know I'm super excited to watch him. The next player I want to talk about is goaltender Spencer Knight for the Americans, the second Florida Panthers prospect already in this video. Spencer Knight was the 13th overall pick by the Panthers in this previous NHL draft and definitely looks like one of the best promising young goaltenders affiliated with an NHL team. So far this season with Boston College in 15 games, Knight has an 11-4 record, a .940 save percentage, and a 1.73 goals against. Those are some amazing numbers. He's one of 2 goaltenders I'm very excited to watch in this tournament, the other being Yaroslav Askarov. If he is the starting goaltender for the Russians or not, I'm sure he will see some action, and he won't be featured in this video obviously because he's not drafted yet, but is most likely going to be a top 10 pick in this up and coming draft. There's just so many fun young players to watch in this tournament, and that's why it's one of the best times of the year, and in my opinion some of the best hockey that's going to be played all year too. And with all the firepower that the Americans have up front and on the blue line and Spencer Knight in goal, I think they're going to be a very tough team to beat in this tournament. Moving on to the next prospect I want to talk about, and that is defenseman Ville Heinola for Team Finland. He was the 20th overall pick in this previous NHL draft by the Winnipeg Jets and actually already has some NHL time under his belt. He spent 8 games with the Winnipeg Jets this season, and in those 8 games, he actually looked very good. He had a goal and 4 assists for 5 points and was a +3 as an 18-year-old defenseman on that very bad Winnipeg blue line. The Jets didn't decide to keep him around all year, as I'm pretty sure they just didn't want to burn a year of his entry-level contract, and Heinola has since then played a couple of games with the Manitoba Moose before going back over to Finland to play in the Liga. Ville Heinola is going to be a massive part of Team Finland's blue line in this tournament, and honestly their offense doesn't look as strong this season as it did in previous tournaments, so the defense is going to be relied upon a lot in my opinion. I'm just super excited to watch him play, and if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan and haven't really got to see him play too much outside of the 8 games he's played in the NHL this year, you should definitely tune into some Finland games this tournament. The next player I want to talk about is defenseman Adam Boqvist for Team Sweden, and me as a Canadian and obviously rooting for Team Canada to win every year in the World Juniors, I think this year the 2 teams I'm most worried about is obviously the Americans because they're stacked, and Team Sweden. They look loaded this year, and Boqvist isn't the only Swede I'm going to talk about in this video, but since we're talking about Boqvist right now, he did play for Sweden at last year's World Junior Championships, and in 5 games he had 4 points. And this year he's definitely going to play a much bigger role coming back as a returning player, and I think he honestly has the potential to be one of the better defenders in this tournament. Boqvist was the 8th overall pick by the Blackhawks in the 2018 NHL draft, and Blackhawks fans have already seen a good glimpse of Adam Boqvist because he did play in 8 NHL games this year where he had a goal and an assist, and the other games he played this season came in the American Hockey League for Rockford, and in 15 games down there he has a goal and 5 assists for 6 points. I think this tournament is going to be a great opportunity for Boqvist to show off how good he really is, and Team Sweden just looks loaded. Next up we have Moritz Seider, and you guys knew I had to talk about him in this video. He was the Red Wings' 6th overall pick in this previous NHL draft, and the guy looks like an absolute stud. Seider was fantastic for Germany in the World Championships playing against NHL players, and I honestly think that is a big reason why Steve Yzerman decided to select him 6th overall when many people figured he would probably go in the 10 to 15 range. But with the way Seider has been playing for Grand Rapids of the American Hockey League, it has me super excited about him, and honestly I'm very happy that Steve Yzerman did pick him 6th overall because the Red Wings need a lot of help on the blue line. And again, going back to him playing fantastic in the World Championships, I can only imagine how good he's going to play in this World Junior Tournament. And every year Germany is not a team that people look at as one of the favorites, but they should definitely be taken seriously this year with guys like Moritz Seider, Dominic Bach, and Tim Stützle, who looks like he's going to be one of the top prospects in this up and coming draft. The next prospect I want to talk about is forward for the Russians Vasili Podkolzin, who was the 10th overall pick in this previous draft by the Canucks. And Podkolzin was a member of the Russians in last year's tournament, but he didn't really have a big role with the team, and in 7 games he registered just 3 assists. But heading into this year's tournament, you can definitely expect a lot more from him. Podkolzin and Denisenko are probably going to be 2 of the go-to guys on offense for Team Russia, and it should be super fun to watch. After being drafted 10th overall by the Canucks, Podkolzin has spent a little bit of time in the KHL this year, and he has kind of struggled, but that is to be expected. That's a very good league, and he's obviously super young. I think this tournament is going to be a great opportunity for Podkolzin to really thrive and gain some confidence, and then go back to the KHL and hopefully start putting up some points. And if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan and you haven't seen much of Podkolzin, I haven't seen much of him either. It's kind of hard to look for his highlights as he played in a league that isn't covered too much last year before the draft. And again, if you're a Canucks fan, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to watch Podkolzin play at a high level. Moving on to the next prospect, I want to talk a little bit about Bowen Byram, who was the 4th overall pick by the Colorado Avalanche in this previous NHL draft. Now, Bowen Byram had a ridiculously good season in the WHL last year for the Vancouver Giants, 71 points in 67 games, 26 goals. He really looked electric on offense. But this year, his offensive game has seemingly taken a step back, as in 27 games in the WHL, he only has 3 goals and 16 assists for 19 points. That doesn't take away from the fact that he still is a blue chip prospect, and the Colorado Avalanche should be super excited about him. Like I mentioned with Podkolzin, I think this tournament can be a great opportunity for Bowen Byram to play well and really gain some confidence and take that back to the WHL after the tournament's over. And any fans of the Colorado Avalanche should definitely try to catch a couple of Team Canada games, because Bowen Byram is probably going to be a pretty big part of that blue line, and me personally, not even as an Avs fan, I'm super excited to watch him play on such a big stage. Moving on to the other Swede that I wanted to talk about in this video, and that is defenseman Rasmus Sandin, and him and Adam Boqvist on the blue line for Team Sweden is going to be disgusting. Rasmus Sandin was the 29th overall pick by the Leafs in 2018, and he did play for Team Sweden at last year's World Junior Tournament, and in 5 games he had 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points. I can only imagine how good he's going to be this year. And like Adam Boqvist, who I was talking about earlier, Sandin does have some NHL experience under his belt, as he did appear in 6 games with the Leafs this season where he put up 2 assists. And so far this year for the Marlies, he's been great. In 17 games he has 2 goals and 10 assists for 12 points. And again, me as a Canadian, I'm super worried about Sweden because they have a loaded team. They have guys like Lucas Raymond too, who's going to be one of the top prospects in this up and coming draft, and many more players. They're going to be a sick team in this tournament. And now finishing out the video with a player that I might be most hyped to watch in this entire tournament, and that is Cöle Caufield, who's going to be representing Team USA. Caufield was the 15th overall pick in the 2019 draft by the Montreal Canadiens, and even without him playing an NHL game yet, that looks like an absolute steal because this dude is tearing up the NCAA. So far in 18 games for the University of Wisconsin, Caufield has 12 goals and 8 assists for 20 points. And he's only one of the many very good players going to be representing USA in this up and coming World Junior Tournament. Like I mentioned with Sweden, I'm pretty worried about the Americans because they're going to have guys like Caufield, Trevor Zegras, Alex Turcotte, Keandre Miller. I could go on and on about how good this team is going to be. And I can understand why Habs fans are so hyped about Cöle Caufield, and if you're a Montreal fan and you haven't got to watch him play too much, this is going to be a great opportunity. He's probably going to be one of the better players to watch in this tournament. So that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys want to see more videos on the World Junior Championships when it actually starts, make sure to let me know down in the comment section below, and also make sure to let me know any players that you're super hyped to watch in this tournament for any country. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I will see you guys all in tomorrow's video.